Uh, I'm Inzamul Sarkar. Thanks to Professor Krishna Bhattacharya for chairing the session. Thank you for giving this opportunity. It is always a pleasure to be presenting in ICOLC. My only regret this time is that I can't see you all, but my consolation is that at least everybody can see me. I'm thankful to Linguist Society of India and Central Institute of Indian Languages, Mysore, for providing this opportunity at this time when physical conference is almost next to impossible. So the topic for my today's presentation is negotiation of language choice and language ideology of Urdu in peer interactions in a private madrasa of West Bengal. I would love to start with a field note observation. I am in a madrasa. I am seated in one of the two fifth grades school. My admiration for the students' Urdu proficiency grows. Okay, as I see a group of Bengali speakers from various parts of West Bengal interacting inside their second language classroom. They pay attention to Urdu stories, respond with newly learned words, and answers many of the teacher's questions. Watching them is a lot of fun. Outside the campus, I stood with Mr. Kadri, one of the instructors, enjoying tea after Asr Namaz, and I conveyed my joy at hearing Bengali speakers speak Urdu. I described my insight about Urdu speakers that the fact that we assume that they will do this and don't see it as exciting. Mr. Kadri admitted to having a double standard for children, recalling a period when he noticed it in a previous teaching position. I stand and observe the madrasa students reflecting on how much pressure these expectations place on Urdu language learners. The importance of a language ideology in influencing our understanding of young children's language learning and language choice is highlighted in this field notes observation. So this study examines how children are influenced by the shared notions about language forms and practices that are noted in this power conflict. So many scholars, let's say Rahman Tariq Rahman, 2006, or Rizwan Ahmed, 2015, argued that Urdu is associated with Muslims because its script, loan words, and distinct sounds are all derived from Persian and Arabic, two languages connected with Islam and Muslims. But this argument wavered once we looked into the scenario of West Bengal, where it is further reduced and linked with the Maulana's identity. On the basis of language, Muslims in West Bengal can be divided into two groups: Bengali speaking Muslims and Urdu speaking Muslims. Urdu speaking Muslims make about 6% of Bengal's population and are largely concentrated in urban areas. To comprehend the ideologies of Urdu among Bengali Muslims to the Khariji madrasas, which are the training institutes for these Islamic scholars. These ideas and views will be vital to Urdu's indexicality since it differs significantly from the northern perspective where it is still associated with Muslim identity. Urdu is a medium of instruction commonly adopted by most madrasas I visited. Some may use a combination of Urdu and Bengali for religious and general subjects respectively. In rare cases alone, Bengali is used exclusively. In the madrasa position in proper Kolkata, the student population is predominantly Urdu speaking. So many of the students here are from Bihar, so there is no problem of language. The problem arises when we move towards the rural West Bengal, where the majority of the students are drawn primarily from the Bengali speaking background and therefore open to the possibility of being by their Urdu speaking counterparts. In most such cases, the problem is overcome by teaching skills in bilingualism. The problem is, however, grave in madrasas like Furfura Fatehi Senior Madrasa Hooghly and Jamia Rehmania Darul Uloom Malda, where the students are mostly Bengali but are taught exclusively in Urdu. But the authority concerned do not perceive this as a major problem. Uh, Learning Urdu, a required task for many Bengali Muslims minority youngsters at Khariji madrasas, is more than just a cognitive activity. Hawkins argues that second language learning should be approached from a socio-cultural viewpoint with meaning and understanding constructed not in individual heads but as between humans engaged in specific situated social interactions. This implies that analyzing learning Urdu necessitates the examining the many situations in which language learning occurs. more specifically, young children's bilingual language use and choice in West Bengal today cannot be understood without considering classroom interaction, various events, and madrasa contexts in which the children are actively participating, as well as the social and political conflicts over who has the power to make the programmatic and the policy decisions about language. This study is first of all qualitative. In this paradigm, all individuals become participants or actor in social situations. A madrasa, one such social situation where learners, teachers, and parents all have views of what goes on and act according to how they interpret the event. A holistic description of events and procedures occurring in these natural settings was felt to be ideal for the study, given the need to provide much interpretive depth as possible. Ethnographic approach recognizes both that reality has an existence which is independent of how to describe it. So my description in the ethnographical study are manifest by my personal experience of conducting participant observation with supporting interviews. This presentation is largely outcome of the ethnography conducted between November 2019 and January 2020, in which I made use of the methods of participant observation and in-depth interviews. Most of the observation in the chapter relate to the Khariji Madrasa called Rahmania. Let me assure you here that all the names referring to the people and places like Rahmania here are pseudonyms. So they have been anonymized to maintain the privacy and the social dignity of the research participants. Entering into the field as an ethnographer. So based on my experience as an ethnographic study, I feel important or crucial part is entering into the field as an ethnographer. I would like to argue that the notion of insider and outsider is quite complex. Sometimes Bengali Muslims inside Khariji Madrasa saw me as an insider, whereas at others they treated me as an outsider. So although being a Muslim, I may be seen as an insider, as a person who is doing the research in a university in Uttar Pradesh and with a different action, I was always considered to be an outsider. I introduced myself to Minhaj, the principal of the madrasa, as a researcher from Aligarh Muslim University, and I asked him about the Urdu, Bengali, and Arabic in their madrasa. Before answering my question, Minhaj asked me for my identification to verify my identity. I showed him my Aligarh Muslim University identity, but Minhaj still did not look convinced. He did not believe that I was interested only in the issues of language. He told me that the Secret Service agents from the CBI are often come under the cover and looking for other social informations. Although his friend Mr. Wasim, who was less skeptical of my identity than he, told him some researchers do study languages. But on this occasion, I was definitely an now I'm moving to the patterns of language choice in the classroom. The examination of the classrooms as distinct environment for language learning under the dual language program model provided some initial insights. So in other words, while individual classroom and programmatic concerns were significant, they did not tell the entire story. The youngsters were negotiating who had the ability to pick which language to use, affected by both the dominant language ideology and the program's alternative ideology. Thus, the children adoption of the prevailing ideology was clear as Urdu speakers acquired Bengali without reservation and frequently accommodated the Bengali speakers' language preferences, who frequently fought speaking Urdu and requested assistance. Now here is one transcription from the field work, that is Korechi's Kajgulo, that is have you completed the assigned task? कौन से काम? Which work? अरे भाई वही जो मुफ्ती साहब ने दिया था, those tasks मुफ्ती साहब assigned to us. अच्छा वो सब, okay those. मैंने कर लिया, I have completed. তুই অনেক শাতির আছিস. You are very clever. Now the word aches is a Bengali word, but there is no structural resemblance of this word with Bengali structure. Here the word is Bengali, but the structure is adopted from Urdu. Aches is equivalent to ho. Let's say तुम बहुत शातिर हो. So here Bengali structure are compromised in this language context scenario. And inside the classroom, in contrast to the Bengali classroom, the Urdu classroom served as a venue for the direct teaching and learning of language, as well as a setting for the learning of academic subjects. The Urdu language was used as a medium of teaching for the majority of the youngsters who were Bengali speakers at home, even though they took part in Urdu as a second language lesson every day and heard staff members converse in Urdu with one another. They did not hear much of Urdu outside the madrasa. As Islam spread in Bengal, it took many shapes and adopted beliefs and symbols that were not always in accordance with the scriptures. Because linguistic symbols feed into the identity narratives, the tendency towards Islamization has persisted. Urdu is now seen as solely a Muslim language. One major tradition of Urdu linguistics is its concern with correctness or fasahat, and this is seen through the criterion of what we call Islamization. This movement has ideological ramification for identity, self-definition, and in the end, politics. The concept of correctness allows for the formation of an aristocracy of language honors, or I'm calling it Ahl Zuban. This serves the objectives of preserving language as the exclusive domain of an elitist group, distinguishable from others by their birth, upbringing, and education in the correct language rules. Likewise, it is a device that excludes others, the less than perfect speakers. Of course, these others can learn Urdu, but they can never match the perfection of the Ahl Zuban. Here is one excerpt. अल्लाह ने पैगाम भेजा, अल्लाह sent the revelation that now तू ही बोस अच्छे से सब सुनो. You sit down, hey, listen to me carefully. जी, बड़े आलिम बनने के लिए तलफ़ुज़ बहुत important है. I mean, सब एक साथ बोलो पैगाम. So during a lecture, one of the students, Hamidur, was asked to read out loud an Urdu text. In the course of the passage, he used the word पैगाम without the Urdu guttural, and even before he could complete the sentence, instructor Mr. Minhaj, who completed this his education from Darul Uloom Deoband, interrupted the student and corrected him immediately. These madrasas hire expert in Urdu to correct the pronunciation of their students. In short, the ideological position, the references of Urdu adopted about correctness was intimately linked with the emerging elitist identity of Ahl Zuban, as I mentioned earlier. So the Bengal speakers in the Urdu classroom, like Urdu speakers in the Bengali classroom, use the strategies of observation and repetition in order to participate in conversation. As you can see, that word pagam, many times repeated by the students. So we are just moving fast. Okay, now this is immigrant help in preserving Urdu. So I interviewed Mehraj Hussain, the headmaster of Samta Kharji Madrasa on December 20. Though he gave the interview in broken Bengali, he prefers teaching in a language he is comfortable speaking. Minhaj is one of many Muslim immigrants who came to West Bengal in search of the religious opportunities. So these immigrants play a crucial role in ensuring that madrasa remain a vehicle for the preservation of Urdu both in Hooghly as well as the state at large. Okay, so now the socio-cultural, socio-political, and historical backgrounds of the speakers are closely related to the negotiation between the self and other. So in this vein, code switching is not just the mixing or alternation of linguistic codes, but is source of creation and recreation of different meaning, ideologies, social and ethnic identities. Here you can look at the excerpt that आप यहाँ कितने साल से है? मैं यहाँ तो 3 साल से हूँ, उससे पहले देवबंद में तालिबे इल्म था। तो आपने उर्दू कैसे सीखा? আমার আব্বাও দেওবন্দ থেকে পড়েছে, তাই প্রথম থেকেই বাড়িতে একটা মাহল ছিল। उर्दू ही क्यों? सारे अच्छे उर्दू में ही है। बांग्लादेश एक्चुअली अडॉप्टिंग बांग्ला इंस्टेड ऑफ उर्दू। व्हाट डू यू थिंक? मेरे हिसाब से तो पर्शियन होना चाहिए, क्योंकि उसकी स्ट्रक्चर अरबिक से काफी मिलता है। The waving in and out of the two languages can be related to the social background of the Maulana. He is brought up in a social setting where there have been exposed to and use of Urdu and Bengali frequently over a period of time, especially more formal contexts such as in madrasas. So this has led to the code switching between Urdu and Bengali being commonly used in an academic setting. In such a situation and context, the emergence of unconscious code switching appears to be spontaneous, as there exists no pause, break, or hesitation. Rather, the speaker goes back and forth between the two languages in a fluid manner. These micro attributes are indicators of the speaker's hybrid bilingual identity orientation. Now the performance. I noticed the Friday khutbah, religious sermon that I earlier in the week in a mosque in Kolkata. I was telling to one of my friend Rashid how strange it sounded to me when the Imam, a preacher, in his khutbah delivered in Urdu, was pronouncing the Urdu letters Ain and Bari Hai in Arabic loanwords. For example, the word halal, allowed, is written, halal means allowed, is written as halal in both Urdu and Arabic script. However, it's pronounced halal in Urdu, but halal in Arabic. Uh, I am coming to the conclusion. Okay, so rather than assuming a given religious identity of Bengali Muslims, this paper has focused on very process of this identity formation. According to the study, immigrants play a significant role in ensuring that madrasa vehicle for the preservation of Urdu in both Hooghly and the rest of the state. This paper suggests that young children play an active role in negotiating these ideologies and should be seen as participants and resources in any process to construct alternatives. Thank you.
And so one thing I'd like to know from you that I have seen the abstract. There you have mentioned that the children going to the madrasa, they are Bengali speaking.
Yes.
But at the end of this abstract, you have written that whose home language, one group of children, they have their home language Urdu, and one group have their own language Bengali.
Yes.
Then I cannot compare these two. There is some anomaly, it appears to me, because you have already said that Bengali-speaking children, you are focusing on.
No, ma'am. Actually, ma'am, our focus group is actually the Bengali-speaking children, but there are also few students who are Urdu-speaking. So my focus group is the Bengali-speaking people who are learning Urdu, and there are also the presence of the Urdu-speaking children. So I would like to see, how they are interacting and how their interaction is giving us some new insights in learning Urdu. In their presence where already the Urdu native speakers are present.
Okay, that's good. But the point is that I think whenever we think about the control on the language, in that case there must be some difference, because Bengali speakers, they are learning Urdu and only in the madrasa situation, not the outside. Do they speak Urdu outside also?
No.
No, with their peer groups, they speak in Bengali.
Mostly, yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
So then what is your conclusion? Would you please tell me again?
Okay, so there is a kind of the religious authenticity. Let's say they are talking about some events. So now, just to authenticate their own arguments, sometimes they use Urdu as a religious language, which is not true. Let's say local religious language. Urdu is used as a local religious language.
That means Urdu is being used as for religious identity.
Yeah, religious identity.
Connection with the religious identity only, the language and the religious identity.
Sure.
These are two characters. These are linked.
Yes.
But and that is why they are choosing Urdu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if we look at the Bangladesh, in the context of Bangladesh, they have even, they are right now, they are not using Urdu anymore. They have replaced Urdu with Bengali.
Yes.
So today we have seen here in the Madrasa of West Bengal, here there is a great influence of the Deoband and the Barelvi, those institutions of Uttar Pradesh, and they are influencing more. So somehow they are still dependent on the Urdu language, which can be replaced by the Bengali. Maybe it's a matter of time.
But the situation is different, because in Bangladesh, Bangla is the national language.
True. So is the case for West Bengal. In the West Bengal, where the Hooghly, let's say the Malda, the Bengali is the language, right? This is the only language, and mostly you understand the situation.
No, the importance of a national language is quite different. Yeah. So it is from the government itself. There is a pressure that you have to do everything at every sphere. In every domain, you have to use the national language. So, they are actually developing the language in all spheres and to express all the types of subjects they are translating, they are using at every field. So, in that case, the progress of Bengali is really worth noting, quite appreciable. But the situation in West Bengal is different.
Yeah. If you just look at the, let's say I was just mentioning Furfura, so they have initiated this, initiative already, just like Bangladesh, they are also publishing the magazine in Bengali, and they are prescribing the things, they are translating the scriptures from Urdu or Arabic to Bengali. So, these are the initiatives. We can just expect that within few time, it is a matter of time, we can just cross this.
Yeah. It's a matter of time. Okay, thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am.